interview for our series TripleAreno Home Show. I am glad and have the pleasure today to have the discussion with Gregor Cerinšek from IRI Ljubljana. Hi, Gregor.
Hi, Simona.
Hi. So Gregor, he's an experienced project manager with a broad understanding of challenges and quality impact assurance when coordinating European projects. His topics of interest are education, training, development, university business cooperation, innovation systems, and idea management. Gregor, he works for the Institute for Innovation and Development of the University of Ljubljana, which is one of our partner in TripleAreno. Specifically, Gregor is responsible for one of our, let's say, main tasks, all the tasks related to ethnography and anthropology, but he was also working in other European projects as external consultant for the European Commission, as an expert project reviewer, and has quite some experience in this field. A very interesting point about Gregor is that he's also working to his PhD thesis at the University of Ljubljana that specifically focuses on European projects behind the scenes. So really trying to understand is like the social aspects between or behind the European projects. And very interestingly, he recently started a blog that he's posting also on his LinkedIn page, and I really strongly advise everyone to go and see it, because there are 3 blogs that are released so far, quite interesting, about the rituality of project meetings and about trust among project partners. So very interesting, and maybe during this interview we can learn a little bit more about what Gregor is doing. But so first of all, Gregor, we see you're sitting in the office, but how is the situation in Slovenia? How your home working space look like these days?
Well, yeah, I'm currently really sitting in my office because of this interview, but otherwise I moved my office to my home, actually. I'm quite lucky that I can do the majority of things from home, so I just need a computer, internet connection, and some peace and quiet, which is actually the most difficult to get when you share the office space with your 2 children. Otherwise, I try to be active also physically. I do some exercises at home on daily basis, but I also go out for a walk or I do some running just to keep in shape. Positive sides I can expose are that I read more, I can concentrate more on my research, that we will also speak about it later. And last but not least, I can spend more time with my family, which is enriching. But I miss traveling, actually.
Yeah, I think these times are really giving a lot of possibilities to reflect and to also rethink the way we want to run our life, or we are obliged to run our lives. And that's also the reason why we had this home show series of interview, because one of our scope of the project was to run this road show, also supported by the team of anthropologists, to meet the people of our project. But nevertheless, we realized this was not possible. I have a preliminary question for you. How do you think this, life in lockdown and this crisis will change the way we are foreseeing, our cities, the way people live in the cities, and of course the way also the renovation wave in Europe will change because of this, new living?
Well, I have thought about that for quite a lot, and at the end, I always get to a same conclusion that I just don't know. I mean, it's so difficult to give predictions. I can speak out loud or think out loud what are the possible scenarios, but it's more or less making predictions that could be very different the next day when you get additional, lockdown rules or sanctions from the government or from the municipality. So it's really a challenging time, I would say. Personally, I really hope that things will get back on track sooner or later, and that we will start to live normally as we lived before. But for sure, there will be consequences. At least I think that I always try to see the positive sides. So I think that currently people realize that you can also do other things in a different way that you've done before. And here I speak especially about, preserving the planet, protecting the environment, also working from home, having video calls instead of live meetings if they are really not needed. So I think that we are somehow discovering new perspectives of our lives because we are forced to it. And if this situation wouldn't happen, if this situation didn't happen, we would probably not have the same impression. So that's my thinking about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course, I ask you this question because I typically have a connection with more technical partners, but because of your background, I also like to know more about, the perspective on the social, takeaway of this, revised way of living. But also what it's interesting for this interview, it's to understand your opinion related to projects like TripleA-reno. We can read from your bio, you are involved in this field for like more than 5 years. So you have like quite long experience. But for how long have you been engaged in Horizon 2020 projects? And what is your opinion? How did this project differ from other, R&D projects or university, more academia related projects did you work during your career?
Sure. So I have been involved in European projects for more than 15 years already. So I have started to work when I was still a student, and it was in the Framework 6 and later on in Framework 7 program. So these were sort of predecessors of Horizon 2020. And being involved in different projects, so from smaller to larger, innovation, support actions, education, product development, I realized that there are certain, let's call them similar patterns or elements, overarching elements that appear in all projects. And identifying and understanding these elements can help us in project management and also in leading the different groups that we have in projects. So overall speaking, it can help us bring the project towards success. So now about your question, thinking about Horizon 2020 project specifically, I can say that they are on one hand much more complex compared to, let's say, others that are smaller or that are more, monodisciplinary. So in addition to involving different European countries, they bring together also different research and professional disciplines, different sectors, so universities, industries, NGOs, research institutes, umbrella organizations, for instance. And on a more subtle level, there is a continuous negotiation is being carried out between different, sometimes even contradictory interests, be it on individual, group, organizational, or project level. So there's a sort of intertwining of statuses, roles, identities, perspectives, viewpoints, cultural characteristics, generational differences, which is also very important, and also pure personal attractiveness or tensions. And this all creates a sort of complex formation, as anthropologists would say, formation with its stability continuously on a stake. Yeah. And that's why you need experienced and competent project managers to hold this together.
Yeah, I very much agree with you. I've heard this term, multidisciplinarity, in our interviews without even, trying to direct the people that I was interviewing. And as a matter of fact, that's a common point for all the partners that we have. And I really agree with you when you say that the role of project coordinators or project managers are really the one of building trust among the partners involved in the project. When someone asks me what I do as a project coordinator in my interviews or in my work, I always say that I connect people with knowledge. And that's actually my role. And we see all the different expertises and the roles and the technical tasks and work packages. But as a matter of fact, we are really like the director of the orchestra, and we need to coordinate everyone, and it's so important. I mean, it is the same way in other typical projects when we do project management, but the tools that we have in Horizon 2020 are more, the soft skills that, of course, need to be present in every project manager, but especially in Horizon 2020 project. The basis of the way we receive fundings from the European Commission is indeed based on communication, is based on trust, and it reflects a lot on our projects. And this come very connected to the next question that I had for you, which relates to your PhD. So you decided to, apart from your current work as a project manager and project coordinator, to start your PhD. So a doctoral thesis on European project, on Horizon 2020 projects. And why do you find it so intriguing?
Yeah, maybe I could share a short story with you, because last year when I was completing a project, one of my projects that I was coordinating, and we were all writing the final report. And so an awkward idea came to my mind. I was actually a bit upset, because we really wanted to demonstrate all the good stuff that we have done and delivered during the course of the project. And the report was growing and growing, and suddenly in the middle I realized, who will actually read this? We write a report that resembles a PhD dissertation, PhD thesis, and we invest tremendous amount of time and energy, and then at the end no one is going to read the 150 pages of data with supporting text which is written in a boring bureaucratic style, because you have to address all those criteria that is out there. No one except maybe our reviewers and project officer, and also they don't read it in details. They just do a quick scan, which is understandable due to the amount of reports they have to read. So my question was, can we really get a clear holistic picture of a project as a whole when we are losing ourselves in describing all the details requested in the report? So why couldn't we represent our projects in a different, more appealing way? For instance, like we are doing now, this kind of interviews, shows, having your target speaking about the results, about the impact that is out there, so that it really reaches the target groups that we involve. And this was sort of a trigger. And then I ask myself, what is, reports are something, yeah, but it's not just about the reports. It's not just about the bureaucracy. I ask myself, what is hiding behind the Potemkin village of European projects? So, you know, all the interesting and exciting things that we all do in projects, but we never speak about them. Why don't we frankly think about our experiences and share with the world all the exciting stuff that happened in the projects, together with all the conflicts, pitfalls, major breakthroughs, fallouts that we had? And that would be an interesting reading, I think, and what we eventually learned out of it. So often the key takeaways and learnings from projects are not captured in the official reports, and that's too bad, I would say. So now maybe just to summarize, so what I really miss is speaking, reading, and sharing true experiences about how European projects really work. So what are the obvious and especially what are the hidden elements that influence the success or failure of a project? And as an anthropologist, I would like to discover what is happening. I call it what is happening behind the scenes. So from an anthropological perspective, I will be discussing different topics such as relations between formal organization structures and informal networks, as you already mentioned, project rituals, rites of passage, rules and sanctions, identities, roles and statuses, also the project terminology that we all use, and is the meaning and ideology which is hiding behind it. So in general, anthropological concepts that are hiding in European projects.
Yeah, and I think this work is it's an excellent idea. What I'm flabbergasted about this consortium that we have for TripleA-reno is the quality, like the intellectual quality of the contribution that we are giving. We are not merely applying ourselves, our knowledge to a specific task, but we do have, or at least we try to have, a very holistic perspective in everything we do. And I think one of the main results we achieved in TripleA-reno is the contamination effect among partners. Whereas we know now that our engineers talk more with the social aspect or social attention, or what the anthropologists taught us, that it's not about customers, it's about people, or really try to find these interconnections between the different tasks and the actions. And again, it's a contribution that anthropologists gave as a sort of diffuse knowledge. It was never imposed, but we've learned. And that is really what for me this is so intriguing, is because very often when projects are driven purely by putting a product on the market, everyone is so eager to achieve his marketing strategy goals, or positioning the product to the shelves of for the customers. But we don't really think about all these profusions of knowledge that are so enriching. In a sense, it's like being at school again and learn, and really having the space to learn how to develop the technology for someone that finally could use it, but also for us as professionals to grow. And I think this is one of the overarching elements that you, like the anthropologists, really thought the team to learn. So I think it's an extremely valuable work, the one that you are developing. But I would like to go a little bit more narrow to the TripleA-reno project, because we are now discussing about Horizon 2020 in general. But what does this project mean for you as a researcher, but of course as a, for your organization, for the institute you're representing as well?
Mm-hmm. Well, from this perspective of my work and from the institute perspective, this project, the TripleA-reno project, provides, I would say, an additional platform for conducting ethnographic research, for understanding the energy-related habits and practices of people in relation to enhancing deep renovations of buildings, and also researching the affordability, attractiveness, and acceptability from people-centered perspective. Yeah. So as a work package leader, I have this privilege to lead an international team of experienced researchers, and I also have, let's say, to oversee the ethnographic studies in specific demo cases. Also providing overall analysis, interpretation, and cross comparison that is urgent, because we have different countries involved, and we all have a sort of different perspective and different cultural characteristics, and also demo cases differ. The other interesting part, maybe I have to expose, is collaboration with developers, and it's exactly what you mentioned before. So to see how we all change, not just how we as social scientists or ethnographers change, because we dig into issues that are more of a practical nature, related to renovation, which could be considered as, let's say, technical field. But no, it's also how the results from our ethnographic studies influence the overall development of TripleA-reno solutions. So in this perspective, we really aim to follow the people-centered development approach. First, identifying who are our target groups, what are the specific characteristics, behaviors, values, and habits of our target groups, and furthermore, involving these people as co-creators of our solutions. But because we are also speaking about my PhD, let me also mention this, that from the PhD research perspectives, it provides additional deep ethnographic insights into how Horizon 2020 projects work. So insights into the interdisciplinary and multi-sectoral dynamics that we have in TripleA-reno. And because TripleA-reno is a CSA project, so it falls under coordination and support action, I truly believe that these dynamics with all communication, cooperation, negotiation, rituals, and understanding each other's perspectives is even more important and crucial for project success as compared to innovation actions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's a very important aspect that you highlighted, that this contribution is not collateral. It's part of a whole. Talking about the contribution you're making, what are the key lessons that you've learned from TripleA-reno specifically? Okay, so you have a lot of expertise, but can you mention 3 of the main lessons you've learned from TripleA?
Yeah. Again, I can differ from the lessons that are more relevant for the work that I do at the institute, and the lessons that I learned from my PhD perspective, for instance. So the lessons that I learned from my work experience is that we all can learn how to work with people and how to involve people in the development process. So you don't need to be an experienced anthropologist. You don't need to be like experience that you have so many working experiences with doing interviews, with doing participant observation. No, if you just have the will and if you have some proper guidance, how you can get in touch with people and how you can involve them as co-creators, it's manageable. And people also like to cooperate. It's not at the beginning we are all afraid of that they will somehow oppose, but when they see that you really want to listen to their perspectives, that their opinion matters to you, then they are willing, that they start sharing their stories, they start sharing their perspectives, which you can use for further development activities. I think that was one of the key lessons I learned, and it was shared by all the researchers, so not just ethnographers, but also engineers and technicians which went to the field, which were skeptical at the beginning, but later on when they started to interact with people, they all agreed that this approach is of value and can bring additional added value. And the other thing I would like to expose, and this is maybe more related to my PhD, is that I can see the difference between what happens on the stage. Yeah, if I borrow the metaphor from the famous sociologist Erving Goffman, so it's what happens on the stage. So looking at project meetings, for example, this is shaped and defined by meeting agenda. But on the other hand, the backstage is also very important. So what all the informal activities, gatherings, spontaneous discussions outside formal structures, at coffee breaks, social dinner, for instance. And I strongly believe that the backstage activities could be considered as key towards understanding the social dynamics in European projects. And I see that all the time. So people feel and act differently in the backstage. They feel more relaxed or confident in contrary to plenary settings. And understanding the importance and the meaning of informal socializing and corresponding rituality in the backstage is, I think, of main importance for successful project management.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is very true. But at the same time, because we are now facing a revolution in our lifestyles, and indeed all these background or backstage activities might be not possible for the next years, or until we have a vaccine for this virus. Well, we know that at the same time, what we've learned from the anthropologists is that, again, when you have to face a critical issue, like, for instance, the platform development, or in our case, the communication activity and the dissemination activity, and we knew that we couldn't meet again for having these events and showing our results, what we asked was a contribution from each of the participants. So everyone is providing a contribution with this interview. And again, it's a people-centered approach on our revised communication strategy, in which, well, we don't go around, but we ask people to provide their contribution. And I have to say that I suggested this interview because I've learned from the anthropologists this method. So again, it's using one of our methods to overcome one of the projects that we had internally. And I think it's also this capability of self-reinventing in a project consortium, which is extremely important and is very strong. So I really would like to thank you for this interview, Gregor. But before letting you go and go back to your family, I would like to ask you one last question. I'm trying to conclude these interviews all the time with a message of hope. So if you could have a wish, just one wish, like a best case scenario for the future of TripleA-reno, and how this project, the tools we're developing, the methodology we're developing could change or somehow unlock the renovation wave in Europe, what would be your hope?
My hope would be, and again, maybe I hope I'm not repeating myself, but my hope would be that you really try to get people involved. So because it affects the renovation activities, affect the lifestyle of people, you should get them involved from the very beginning. And you can use it as opportunity also for sort of behavioral change, if I can say like that, although I'm not very keen on using this term, but in fact it means that the renovation activities can trigger also different habits which could be more energy efficient. So go to people, explain to people, listen to people, and involve people. That would be my key recommendation, and I also hope the consequence of TripleA-reno project.
Thank you, Gregor.
Thank you, Simona.